Gains. Let's begin with the Russell 2000 at a record up by 0.2%. NASDAQ 100 index just dipping lower, down now by 1 point, but the NASDAQ Composite Index up 29. That is a record up 0.2%. The S&P higher by 5 now, up 0.1%, also a record, and the Dow at a record as well, up 93 now, up by 0.3%. 10-year down 13.30 seconds. 10-year yield 1.49%. Spot gold up 0.4%. 18.25 the ounce, and West Texas Intermediate crude up 1%, 82.12 for a barrel of WTI. Pfizer says it plans to submit its COVID pill test findings to regulatory authorities as soon as possible. Last week, Pfizer said its COVID pill reduced hospitalizations and deaths in high-risk patients by 89%. Now, many have called this pill a potential game changer in keeping people out of hospitals, but Dr. Joshua Sharfstein, Vice Dean at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, reminds us you've got to get tested before you can get the pill.
Here's, I think, one of the big challenges, that the same population of people in many places, not in all places, who are reluctant to get vaccinated may be reluctant to go and get tested for COVID in the first place and find out that they need the pill until it's too late. So, the best thing by far is to get vaccinated. The other thing to keep in mind is that viruses can adapt and can actually escape from some of these antiviral treatments.
Dr. Sharfstein with the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, which is supported by Michael R. Bloomberg, founder of Bloomberg LP and Bloomberg Philanthropies. Pfizer shares, they are down 0.5%. ADRs of its German partner BioNTech, they're up 11.5%. AstraZeneca's ADRs down 0.1%. Moderna rallying today by 3%. Johnson & Johnson down 0.4%. Lots of earnings after the bell today. PayPal, we'll also be hearing from shares of Virgin Galactic Holdings, Zynga reporting, and AMC Entertainment also reporting. It's up now by 7.1%. And that's a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. This is Bloomberg.
I know it is. We all know.
Nice. Should we play the whole thing? How many minutes is... We should go, 7 minutes, 9 minutes?
It's like,
I think it's like 7 minutes and 58 seconds.
it's like when the disc jockey goes to the bathroom. They get a bathroom break because it's a long song. Although
Yeah.
it's not as long as like Alice's Restaurant or something, right?
No, not even close.
So Stairway to Heaven,
Led Zeppelin.
50 years ago today, the album came out featuring Stairway to Heaven.
Wow. Wow, those dudes are old, man.
That's your takeaway?
They're also incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it around the table. I mean, they were Kennedy Center Honors a few years ago, and it was really cool because they really just are an incredible sound.
We also can't forget
Great
the classic
musicians.
reference in Wayne's World when Wayne wants to play at the guitar store with his new Fender Stratocaster, and he starts with a couple bars from it, and the salesperson points to the sign and says, "No stairway."
All right, Dave Wilson's
It's all in our frame of reference, I guess.
all right, he's like, come on, kids.
Absolutely.
I got a chart of the day. So take
Reg
it away.
knows
Well,
what
and
I'm
the
talking
chart
about.
kind of looks like a stairway to heaven, so it fits. It's kind of a thought exercise. Now, we know the other day Microsoft passed Apple, became the world's largest company by market value. I remember, that's happened before. In fact, you go all the way back to 1998. That was the first time that Microsoft was at number one in terms of market value. And then I kind of pushed things forward and thought to myself, well, what does that mean? And what's very different about now versus 1998 is the effect on the wealth of former CEO, chairman, co-founder Bill Gates. Once the richest man in the world, he's been eclipsed by Tesla's Elon Musk, by Amazon's Jeff Bezos. So what I did, with a little help from the Bloomberg Billionaires Index and some old documents, is figure out, okay, what was Gates' stake back in September 1998 when, indeed, the Microsoft became number one the first time? And if he had held on to his shares, how much would they be worth now? Yeah, a lot.
Wow.
End of last week, it was almost $700 billion.
Wow.
And to put that in context, I mean, that's about double, a little bit more than double Elon Musk's net worth, more than 3 times Jeff Bezos' net worth. But of course, Gates took a very different approach. He diversified. He set up the foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So, you know, over time, I mean, that stake shrank to the point where when he stepped off the board last year, it was the most recent filing that we know about, 1.3%. So most of it was gone. But it just goes to show you how the last few years specifically have affected this company when it comes to its value and what might have been for Bill Gates. If you want to know more, folks, send me an email. I'll get you the chart, the explanation that goes with it, and everything I do going forward. The email address is dwilson@bloomberg.net. That's dwilson@bloomberg.net.
Never have sold that Microsoft stake.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
Ifs and buts were candy nuts, we'd all have fun at Christmas.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, though. It's on a day where we saw Google hit $2 trillion, joining Microsoft and Apple of being companies above a $2 trillion market cap. They're back down below it, but earlier in the day they hit $2 trillion.
Right, and if you think about the founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, they have a pretty substantial stake in the company. Also true with Bezos at Amazon, and true with Elon Musk for sure at Tesla.
Dave, stock of the day.
Trade Desk. It's a relatively large company for stock of the day, but it's one that gets skipped over a lot of times because it's not in the S&P 500. And I'll tell you, if it were, it would be the best performer by far. And you're talking about a company now that's about $43 billion in market value. It's all about advertising technology. So if you want to place digital ads, you can go through Trade Desk Network and do that. Third quarter results, earnings and revenue beating analyst average estimates in the Bloomberg survey rather handily. And fourth quarter forecast doing the same. Business is going well. And so you've got Trade Desk headed for its biggest gain since February 2019. The shares are up more than 30%.
$43 billion market cap. Yeah, it's not a company we talk about, but an interesting one, it sounds like. Very cool. Very cool.
All right, thank you, Dave Wilson. A check of the latest world and national news. Nancy Lyons is standing by in D.C. Hey there, Nance.
Thanks, Tim. President Biden is planning a victory lap this week on his newly approved bipartisan public works bill.
The president hopes to sell Americans on the merits of the $550 billion in new spending, even as they face rising prices for fuel, food, and housing. President Biden will hit the road for the next several weeks, including a stop at the Port of Baltimore Wednesday. Ports around the country have been dealing with log jams in the supply chain. Cabinet secretaries will also be fanning out to both red and blue states and making local and national TV appearances to explain the infrastructure measures benefits. President Biden is also considering a response to the highest gasoline prices for U.S. motors since 2014. In Washington, Ann Cates, Bloomberg Radio.
A man allegedly shot by Kyle Rittenhouse during racial justice protests last year in Wisconsin took the stand today in Rittenhouse's murder trial. Rittenhouse allegedly killed 2 of Gage Grosskreutz' friends. Grosskreutz was questioned by Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger about their confrontation.
What was going through your mind at this particular moment? That I was going to die?
Grosskreutz admits he was armed but couldn't bring himself to fire back. The U.S. has fully reopened its borders with Mexico and Canada and lifted restrictions on travel that covered most of Europe. But the State Department's Ned Price says the policy does come with a proviso.
Foreign national air travelers to the United States will be required, with only limited exceptions, to be fully vaccinated and to provide proof of vaccination status prior to boarding an airplane to the United States.
The new rules are providing a much-needed boost for the travel industry. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
All right, what is it with billionaires and social media?
If you spend as much time on Twitter as I do, then you have a problem. And it sounds like that
Don't
the social
they have,
media people...
$1 trillion companies to run?
Well, Jeff Bezos, not so much.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, that's right. Right.
He's on the board of one, but he's spending more time at Blue Origin these days.
All right, so let's explain what's going on. Jeff Bezos tweeted out, "Leo, come over here. I want to show you something." And he tweeted, "There's a picture of him over a sign: danger, steep cliff, fatal drop."
Is he shirt? I think he's shirtless at this sign too. Yeah, showing muscles. Okay.
Muscles.
This is in reaction to an interaction caught on video between DiCaprio and Bezos' girlfriend Lauren Sanchez. It circulated on the website. The billionaire was pictured behind a danger sign that warned of a fatal drop.
Because apparently, and I'm going to the New York Post now for this. All right, folks, we're all in on media covering this, but the New York Post said I'm reading it verbatim. Jeff Bezos teasing legendary actor Leonardo DiCaprio after video surfaced of the Amazon billionaire's gal pal Lauren Sanchez giving the Titanic actor a starstruck look at a party. So hence, danger, danger. Jeff Bezos coming out without his shirt on, showing his muscles.
Okay.
And saying, danger.
I'm going to bring this back to...
Bring it on,
I'm going
Leo.
to bring this back to my level, okay? Which is, increasingly, Jeff Bezos has been spending more and more time in Hollywood as he's bought a very large home there. His girlfriend has been there for a long time. Amazon is going more into Hollywood. He's spending more time with celebrities now that he's no longer CEO of Amazon. And then the other angle of this, Carol, is what is it with these billionaires and their Twitter accounts these days?
I don't know.
We just spent part of the show talking about Elon Musk and the tweets that he was sending over the weekend.
I guess they're just having fun. It's a way of keeping yourself out in the public. Barstool Sports tweeting, Leo is Mr. Steal Yo Girl.
That's the whole thing. That's what started it. I'm just glad you're the one who read that, not me.
I'm such a little girl from New Jersey. But it's just really kind of funny because it does show Jeff Bezos' girlfriend just kind of looking up and...
It's Leonardo DiCaprio. What do you expect?
I mean, come on, we know, right? Like, you're allowed.
Yeah.
You're allowed to look. Apparently not if you're Jeff Bezos' girlfriend. All right, anyway, this is Bloomberg.
headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Looking at a late day fade right now with the
decided
S&P
that she
500
would
index right now is up by less than 1 point, up by about half a point. We've got the Dow up 84, higher by 0.2%. NASDAQ lower by 6, a drop there of 0.1%. 10 years down 13.30 seconds, 10-year yield 1.49%. Spot gold up 0.3%, 18.24 the ounce, while West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.1%, 82.20 for a barrel of WTI. So again, recapping, we've got the S&P holding at a record for now, little change, late day fade up by 1 point. NASDAQ on the minus side down 5. We've got the Dow up 89, higher by 0.3%. If we do see a higher close, it'll be the 8th straight session on the S&P. It's only had 2 down days in the past 19. Lots of earnings after the bell, including PayPal, Zynga, Virgin Galactic Holdings, and AMC Entertainment. AMC, by the way, up now by 7.6%. And that's Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. It's 3:48 on Wall Street.
The following is an editorial from Bloomberg Opinion.
For the third time this year, Senate Democrats have failed to push through a voting rights bill. One thing they haven't tried, advancing a measure with a chance of winning Republican support. If they narrow their focus, they might actually get somewhere. For example, several states have recently passed laws undermining the independence of local election boards. That could leave results open to partisan manipulation. It's a truly worrisome prospect, and it should have been Democrats' focus from the start. Had it been, they may well have found some Republican support. Narrowly targeted measures reining in this sort of activity, for example, by prohibiting the firing of local election officials without cause, could potentially succeed in a standalone bill. President Biden and the Democrats should focus on the essential and try again. This issue is too important to shelve. This editorial was written by the Bloomberg Opinion editorial board. I'm David Shipley. For more Bloomberg Opinion, please go to bloomberg.com/opinion or OPI and Go on the Bloomberg terminal.
This has been Bloomberg Opinion.
I'm driving in my car.
How about you let me drive?
Oh, no. This is not a toy. Who's gonna drive you home? Honey, please, I'll do the driving. Drive on. Excuse me, I want to drive. It's the question that drives us.
This is the Drive to the Close.
That funky music will drive us till the dawn.
On Bloomberg Radio.
Just got about 10 minutes left in today's trading session. What I know.
Time flies, Carol.
Time flies.
When you're having fun.
Let's just get Monday over with.
Oh, it's a good one. Okay.
And I'm looking at, in particular, the NASDAQ taking another leg down, still in the green, just up by about 3 points, but near its lows of the session. Let's get to it with our market guest.
Yeah, Dan Genter is Chief Executive Officer and Chief Investment Officer at RNC Genter Capital Management. There's approximately $5 billion in assets under management. He joins us on the phone from Los Angeles. Dan, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing great. It's another update in the market, Tim.
Okay,
so
well,
it's
yeah, I mean,
making sunshine.
Well, there have been a lot of updates.
Unless you're short the market.
Yeah.
Well, there have been a lot of updates. Let's just go through some technicals here. So 8 days higher for the S&P 500. If it holds today, it'll be the longest winning streak since 2017. Dan, how much power does that have to go higher as we get into 2022?
Well, I think the important thing is that, right now, despite a lot of the things that we're dealing with in the economy and the marketplace, this is just still an earnings-driven market. And frankly, that earnings are just carrying a significant amount of momentum with regards to new investment dollars that are available. And so the good news is that earnings are up 60%. The market is reflecting that. We've had certainly some multiple expansion, but, assuming we come in at 200 on the S&P this year, about a 220 next year, we're sitting at about a 22.1 PE. So we're not cheap by any means, but we're certainly not radically overvalued, especially when you consider you've got a long bond, or a 10-year that's trading at about 1.5%. So I think we're going to get constrained, and it's going to be difficult to expand multiples further from here. But I don't see any reason why we can't continue to track earnings and at least see upper single digits, maybe very low single digits as we go into 2022.
So does that mean then the market just kind of marks, time, if you will, rather than continuing to move higher? I mean, it's been pretty astronomical what we've seen in terms of returns for the equity markets this year.
Well, Carol, that's what I hope we see.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for 42 years, and when it starts to get ahead of itself, and you're just seeing so much momentum, then any kind of shock or when you're priced to perfection, tends to get accentuated on the downside, and I think that's going to scare a lot of the new generation of investors that we have that really haven't been through that. So, I mean, for me, I would hope that it would slow down. Let's consolidate. Let's the earnings continue to come in and support it. Maybe a little bit of PE pullback, and then see more liquidity come into the market. It tends to slow down this time of year in many cases. We see more liquidity come into the market, in the beginning of the year, because I think it's going to have to go there. I mean, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 4 decades, and there's just not a lot of options for investors right now.
Well, let's talk about some of the options that you're considering, some of the stocks that you like. Let's start with CVS.
Well, I think the nice thing about CVS is that it's a company that to some degree is remaking itself, but it's also remaking itself as an option. It doesn't have to do it. They have a very good core business, but what we're seeing is that they are really becoming a completely integrated healthcare provider. As they move more and more over to where they're not just a pharmacy anymore, they're filling a very, very critical gap, if you will, with regards to non-critical care. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we're going to see in this country. They're profitable at it. Frankly, they're one of the entities that really benefited from COVID. And so that's helping them really to jumpstart this. And, we're in a position to where you've got a nice yield on it. It's about 2.1%, so it's a little above market yield. And where it's trading right now, somewhere in the mid-90s. We feel that, we can be in a situation to where we can actually see some multiple expansion.
Right.
And actually, see some nice appreciation on this stock, with fairly limited downside at the current valuation.
Well, it's interesting. The stock's been on a tear. It's up about 37% this year. But what's interesting, too, Dan, is you look at it, and I was looking at the kind of product segment breakdown, according at least to Bloomberg. I mean, pharmacy services, obviously, they're the big bulk of their business, about 141, almost 142 billion in revenue for 2020. But retail, which is about 91, that healthcare benefit side, which I think, is kind of an outgrowth, as you said, maybe because of COVID. Like, we go there now for services. Right. It's about a $76 billion business, but it's really moving in on the retail side. And you could see that that's where you could get an awful lot of growth going forward.
Yeah, and we have to realize, too, I mean, even despite the fact that the movement it's had, it's still only trading at about a 12 PE, based upon some, an 835 estimate for 2022. And it's so we look at it, we don't have a super upside on it, but we certainly think within the near term it can push to 100. And they're just going to continue to really take advantage of this. I mean, people are beginning to realize, look, instead of me waiting 3 weeks to get an appointment at my doctor and I sit in the waiting room, what I have is not that bad, and I'll go there and get a few stitches and I'm on my way.
The urgent care model, like, it makes sense, and people are increasingly using that. Hey, another name that you like, let's get to it, is, let me just look at my notes here, Phillips 66, so the energy market, but why Phillips 66?
Well, I think right now, that compared to some of the other majors, which we also own, is that it's just undervalued. I mean, the overall gasoline demand declined almost 40%. I mean, that's back with the exception of jet fuel only. All of the other demand is really back to where it was pre-COVID, yet the stock's still down 20% from where it was pre-COVID. The major concern is the refining business, and the refining business has been a little bit soft, but that's picking up. I mean, it's picking up dramatically. So the only soft place they have is rapidly improving. Their marketing segment is extremely strong, and they're in a position to where it's just cheap. It's trading at a 7 PE. You get a 4.7% yield while you wait. And for people that are not in a tax-exempt environment, they have to bear in mind they're only paying a maximum of 20% in taxes on that 4.7%. So to be candid, if the stock just sits, you're getting a 5% yield, which is and they're also rapidly increasing the dividend once again. And we think it has a fair amount of upside. You could have at least one full multiple point of expansion, and at that level, that's about a 14% increase plus the dividend.
Hey, Dan, very briefly, how high does oil get this year, by the end of the year?
Well, it's on a tear right now. We certainly think, we could, I don't know if it's going to hit 90 by the end of the year, but with the demand cycle still being ahead, that's a distinct possibility.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note. Hey, listen, thank you so much. Fun to talk some names with you. Really appreciate it. Dan Genter, he is Chief Executive Officer, Chief Investment Officer at RNC Genter Capital Management, roughly $5 billion in assets under management, on the phone in Los Angeles. Just a few minutes left in today's trading session, and we've been bouncing around. Volatility definitely in today's session, but right now we're looking at a slight gain in the S&P and the NASDAQ, up about 107 points for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But again, up, down is kind of the mode for today.
Yeah, but any finish in the green for the S&P 500 will make it another record day.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of FOMO, fear of missing out, especially when there's any kind of move to the upside. All right, folks, we're going to count you down to the closing bell. We're going to head on over to our TV team, get to Beyond the Bell, our cross-platform coverage of the market close on radio, TV, and YouTube.
Beyond the Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostic, Caroline Hyde, and Shonali Bass again for Taylor Riggs, counting you down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell, it's our global simulcast team, Tim Stenovic, and look at this, a reappearance of Carol Masser coming in on a day where we could potentially find ourselves at yet another record high on the major indices, though they are going to be meager. Wow.
Anyway, what a day, right? Up, down, up, down. We've seen volatility picking up a couple points in the last couple of days. I've been watching the stocks, guys. Thank you, AMD, and doing a deal with Meta, because that has certainly sent AMD on fire, up about 10%, and it's got the stocks up now for 8 sessions in a row, Tim.
Yeah, 8 session in a row higher for the S&P 500, and of the last 19, the S&P 500 has been down only for 2 days. That's why it feels like every day we're seeing green.
I mean, what was it, that stat from Pete Gutierrez really showing that we haven't seen that since 1990 for that sort of amount of a run of 18 days and 16 of them higher. So clearly money moving into the market, but there's also, we got the big question mark of the week, the CPI reading. Shonali, we all look ahead to that inflation read in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. And the inflation read is one thing, but people are comfortable with the direction of interest rates and ready to take on a little more next year for the most part, ready for that growth that 2022 apparently has to bring.
All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that CPI report. I mean, you're talking about 5.9% is basically what economists are expecting. That's going to be the fastest rate of growth that we've seen in about 3 decades, should that materialize. And more importantly, I guess the question is whether that ends up being the proverbial transitory bump up that we see here in the recovery mode here. Here's your recovery right now. All the indices right now are trying to squeak here into the green as we get the closing bells. The Dow Jones Industrial Average looks like it's going to finish higher by about 0.3%, up about 100 points and change here. The S&P 500 just fractionally higher, only up about 4 points here, and it takes a few minutes for these numbers to settle, but that looks like that's going to be good enough here for another record high. The NASDAQ Composite also only up fractionally, less than 0.1%, up about 11 points. We should point out that the NASDAQ 100 is actually going to finish the day in the red, and then you flip up the board and take a look here at the Russell 2000, the cyclical trade, 2442 on the Russell 2000 and change, up about 0.2%.
All right, let's see if this puts a damper on it, because the Fed is out on its twice yearly financial stability report just out. Fed is warning that prices of risky assets keep rising, making them more susceptible to perilous crashes if the economy takes a turn for the worse. Here's exactly what they said. Asset prices remain vulnerable to significant declines should investor risk sentiment deteriorate, progress on containing the virus disappoint, or the economic recovery stall. I feel like it's another Fed meeting, and this is kind of some of the caveats, right, in terms of the worries.
I think it's also I think it's also interesting in there that they also talk about stable coins and the potential instability that that may cause, at least in their view.
Yeah, everyone having a look at crypto, seemingly the ECB, Christine Lagarde talking about a digital coin today as well. It's notable that we're also getting Charles Evans, the Chicago Fed, talking about his interest rate forecast for liftoff still being 2023. He's talking about, to reporters in a speech, about it's time to be patient, time to monitor inflation. We've got a lot of Fed speak. We had, of course, the news of Carlos, the fact that he's going to be stepping down come December, but we also know that we've got tomorrow Mary Daly of the San Francisco Fed. Earlier we had the vice chair. A lot of Fed speak right now.
Patience with the CPI potentially coming in at close to 6%, and you got PPI. That final demand on PPI is actually above 8% here, if you believe what the economists are expecting. I mean, these are not only high numbers, but you're talking about numbers that we haven't seen in several decades.
Yeah, but I guess the question is to what extent consumers can actually pay for these higher costs, given that wages have gone up and consumers right now, by a lot of measures, are in a better position than where they were 2 years ago.
But a lot of consumers are looking at this economy and they're saying that things aren't as good. They're getting wage increases, but they're also seeing the higher price that they're paying at the store, and they're saying, well, maybe that wage increase wasn't enough.
Yeah.
That's on the ground. That's real people.
No, it is. It absolutely is. And it's something that policymakers have to figure out how to solve. And look, if Democrats want to stay in power in 2022, they're going to have to figure out how to fix this.
Guys, should we do a little bit of a look at what happened in terms of the industry groups today? Because amid all this talk of what the Federal Reserve is worrying about, how they're still saying patience on one side of the equation, but worried about the risk asset on the other side. Let's look at the risk assets, because it was a new record high we just managed to eke out, and it was led thanks to the semiconductors. Remember, we got all important AMD and the likes, some of the key semi stocks just doing well out of that metaverse play. We're looking at materials, though, some of the big winners being on the back of the infrastructure bill that got passed late Friday. Energy having a nice day on the back of that, up 0.8%. On the downside, autos, probably in large part thanks to Tesla and the talking down by their own CEO, who's looking to potentially on the back of a Twitter poll, sell 10%. Autos off by 3.4%. Consumer durables, utilities, because of the yields going higher, are also on the downside, Carol.
All right, got a little bit of earnings crossing as we speak here in the after hours. Curaleaf out with their third quarter results. We're looking at a loss of 8 cents a share. That's versus an estimate of being flat, unchanged. So it looks like a little bit of a disappointment there. Third quarter total revenue, also a disappointment, 317.1 million versus the estimate of 330.3 million. And let me just quick bring up what we're seeing in terms of Curaleaf in the after hours, and we're seeing that stock right now about unchanged here. So far not seeing any kind of movement. Stock's down about almost 14%, guys, so far here in 2021.
There's a few other earnings as well. Smile Direct Club, of course, third quarter loss per share, 23 cents. And they saw third quarter revenue, 138 million versus an estimate of 185. So a bit of a miss there for Smile Direct. But that's a big move, down some 21%. I thought we were all, the reopening trade, I thought we were wanting our teeth to look nice again after we take our masks off.
Well, they already did that. They've been in the house all day trying to fix their teeth for the last year and a half. They're coming out. This is a coming out party. It's put on the makeup, and you buy your ticket, and you get on your plane, right? TripAdvisor, what are they doing? Who's doing that?
TripAdvisor is coming out with third quarter revenue, $303 million, earnings per share of 1 cent. So we are seeing a miss in terms of adjusted earnings per share, 16 cents. The market wants to see 24 cents. They're bang in line with revenue. I mean, 303 is where the market had anticipated. We're up 1.8%. How much are we going to see, though, on the call, a voice from the leadership there saying, get on a plane. Remember, November the 8th was the final day. People are able to come into the United States. Yeah, my family
Are your friends, have they already jumped on a plane and gotten?
Not quite yet, I have to say.
Okay.
They're still having too much fun in Europe.
Well, I mean, they had people staked out at some of these airports overseas, and it seemed like the activity was a lot higher.
You seen the cost of a ticket?
Well, yes, that's called inflation. Oh, well, I'm sorry, there is no inflation. The Fed just strips that out.
Yes.
So there's no
transitory.
Guys, talking more about these numbers here, Smile Direct Club is really sinking, more than 20% here. I mean, they see fourth quarter revenue coming in almost $100 million below analyst estimates. So you've got to wonder what's going on there on an IPO darling.
I'm just going to jump in here because, maybe an IPO darling, but it's been down, 56% this year. It's also got a high short position. We're looking at 28% of the float. So as this stock goes lower, I mean, the shorts have to be celebrating at this point. I always miss you, Romaine.
You know, we're also waiting for PayPal and a few other earnings out.
Big one.
And I'm actually interested in the PayPal earnings because, I mean, you saw some of the, I guess, weakness in Square last week with the Cash App, and you sort of wonder whether some of the pandemic issues that sort of were tailwinds for a lot of these companies, whether that sort of works against it.
Yeah, Romaine, I want to bring you up for just some more numbers here. We have Real coming in. That is the consignment store, the luxury store that operates online. We talk about the online shopping.
Used
revenue.
clothes.
Yes, revenue just above estimates there as well. And I know we have some more earnings coming up with Roblox as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, so Roblox is out. You're looking at 3Q daily active users. Pretty much came in slightly for what the street was looking for, 47.3 million hours engaged at 11.2 billion. And here are your bookings numbers, 637.8 million. That's slightly above what the street was looking for. On average, the street was looking for 624.2 here. Shares up about 6% here in the post market.
Well, we've got news in terms of TripAdvisor, CEO announcing plans for a departure.
Wow.
So this, of course, being founder, co-founder of the business, a man who's walked through TripAdvisor through many years now, saying that they're going to be parting some in 2022. So longtime CEO Stephen Kaufer going to be stepping down. And he says, as we come to a close in 2021 in a strong position, travelers are returning as we exit the pandemic. Exciting new initiatives are well on the way, and we continue to leverage our strengths so we evolve TripAdvisor for the future. So he's seemingly bidding farewell when he thinks he's leaving the company in a stronger position.
20 years in, right? Or 21 years in, a co-founder of the company. So it's a long run. And, you know, anybody who's been running a company, certainly in the travel industry for the last couple of years, it's had to have been, you know, you think about right after the financial crisis, how many of those bank CEOs, as soon as it seems like they could, they moved on because it's been just so tricky, but maybe feeling like it's confident now and that we're seeing an outlook, Shanali.
And we should just point out real quickly, they're looking for a successor, so they actually don't have one yet.
Yeah, and shares down after market still. We have a real mixed bag with earnings. We do have Real that did beat analyst estimates. Adjusted loss per share, 47 cents versus 41 cents estimate. So a little bit steeper there than expected. Still Wall Street liking what they're seeing from the Real.
Have you used it?
I have used it before. I was interested. A lot of interesting investors from the beginning, from what I remember.
I've sold some stuff through it, but I don't think it's actually sold. I've consigned it, and no one has picked up.
And then what happens? So if someone buys it, then you get paid
a little
after someone buys that.
Yeah.
After they take their cut.
Yeah.
All right, you guys talk about close. Right now, I'm just going to mention a headline crossing the Bloomberg. Robinhood announcing a November 3rd data security incident. So we're seeing a little bit of a headline on that one, and I'm just taking a look to see if there's any kind of reaction in the after hours. It's down about 2.6%. Tim, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm still waiting on shares, waiting on AMC. That company is supposed to be reporting earnings this afternoon. Shares are higher by about 2,000% so far this year. So that's
Virgin
an important
Galactic's
one.
come out as well.
Wow.
Loss per share, 32 cents, it would seem. Revenue, 2.58 million. So maybe we're just all busy getting on planes for the time being, let alone going into space.
No one's going to space anymore.
It's too crowded there, right?
Hey, it's up about 4.7% in the after hours. So this is a stock that's seen some pressure this year.
And we should just point out, this Robinhood statement is like literally like 2 sentences, and it doesn't really provide any sort of insight into what the breach was, how many people were affected, and what the potential financial cost would be if it's material at all.
Yeah, so thanks very much for all that information, you mean?
Well, actually, the 8K is out.
Oh, is it? So what are we getting?
There's an 8K out, and it's about 310 people. You have to go through the lines a little bit, but 310 people who have had their lists exposed. And an unauthorized party obtained a list of email addresses for 5 million people.
Yeah.
So that is some of the scope that we are seeing there on Robinhood. Let's see how that plays.
They are saying it's been contained. They believe that no social security numbers, bank account numbers, or debit card numbers were exposed, and that there has been no financial loss to any customers as a result of the incident. Apparently, Robinhood putting this out in a blog post.
Yeah, shares down about 2.5% in after-hours trading, but this is a company that wants to be taken seriously. It wants to be compared to the Schwabs of the world and the other trading platforms that have been around for a long time. And I think any security breach casts some questions for people who use it.
10 million people with extensive account details revealed at Robinhood.
Where were you, Carol, the last few days? Did you go overseas?
I actually went to visit my daughter in college and get her to an urgent care because she has bronchitis.
Oh no, too much of a good time at the university.
Saying, no, Mom, I'm really fine. I'm like, wait, you've been coughing for weeks. Let's get to urgent care. All right, we got to run. A lot of news in the after hours and just watching a lot of stocks on the move as well. All right, that's going to do it for our cross-platform coverage. So much going on here on Bloomberg TV, Bloomberg Radio, and on YouTube. That's a market wrap, folks, on this Monday. We'll see you again, same time, same place, tomorrow.
You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week with Carol Masser and Bloomberg Quick Takes Tim Stenovic on Bloomberg Radio.
So just watching stocks move around. Virgin Galactic's up about 4% in the after hours.
Yeah, give me AMC. It's just still not happening.
I know, that's interesting that it hasn't come out yet.
We're also watching shares of Robinhood after this security breach that was reported by the company. Shares lower in the after hours right now. Last check by about 2.5%.
All right, you're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. Let's get a check on world and national news. Over to Nancy Lyons. We go. Hey, Nance.
Hey, Carol. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says he is excited about passage of President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill, and he says he uses the word excited very sparingly. He calls it the largest ever one-time financial boost to America's infrastructure.
Every community large and small, rural and urban, privileged and marginalized. Every community feels the benefits.
The most lucrative air route in the world, which has been London Heathrow to New York Kennedy, reopened today to European travelers with proof of vaccination.
Britain and other European countries have been open to vaccinated Americans for a while, but the U.S. government didn't reciprocate until now, a welcome development for Virgin Atlantic Chief Executive Shai Weiss.
This is a day of celebration. We've seen pent-up demands. We should be at full capacity versus 2019 by April 2022. There is no substitute to meeting face-to-face to close a deal, to hug a person, to celebrate a birthday.
Weiss said in a Bloomberg interview the only bright spot for the last year and a half has been air freight, which has been setting records and with rising rates. In Washington, Irv Chapman, Bloomberg Radio.
More subpoenas are being issued in connection with the January 6th Capitol insurrection. The committee looking into what happened is demanding testimony and documents from 6 associates of former President Donald Trump who were involved allegedly in his efforts to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election. They include former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik. The 6 allegedly strategized in a so-called war room ahead of the siege. Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons. Back to you, Carol and Tim.
Thank you so much for that update, Nancy Lyons. Now a check on the latest when it comes to business news. Here's Charlie Pellet.
Hi, thank you very much. We're keeping an eye on Smile Direct right now. A lot of frowns for Smile Direct shareholders. Smile Direct Club forecast revenue for the fourth quarter, and that guidance didn't miss the average analyst estimate. Right now, Smile Direct down by 19%. Robinhood announcing a November 3rd data security incident. Robinhood says the hack accessed email addresses for about 5 million of its customers. Stocks climbing to records today. S&P notching its longest winning streak since 2017. Corporate earnings, strong hiring data, and a COVID treatment breakthrough bolstering optimism in the U.S. economy. The dollar and treasuries fell. 10-year down 12.30 seconds. 10-year yield right now 1.49%. A record today for the Russell 2000, up 0.2%. S&P up 4, up 0.1%. The Dow up 104, up by 0.3%. And Nasdaq continuing its streak of gains, up 10 today, up by 0.1%. S&P, by the way, higher for an 8th straight session. 10-year yield worth repeating, 1.49%. Spot gold up 0.4%, 18.24 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.2%, 82.23 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right. Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. Ugh, it is such a Monday. I have such a Monday brain. So last week, the Bloomberg Financial Innovation Summit happened. Lots of topics talked about, including crypto, blockchain, stablecoins, ESG, DeFi, deregulated finance, and so much more. Right? Did I say right? Yeah. DeFi. It's like so cool. I mean, you did some interviews at the event. I did. There's just a lot going on when it comes to the financial space.
Yeah, when we talk financial innovation, it's amazing because I think a lot of focus is on crypto right now.
Yes.
But the conference was about everything, even though there was a serious crypto focus.
Well, that's a really good point. And at the virtual event, I caught up with Jeff Jones. He's president and CEO at H&R Block, a well-known name, known mostly for its tax prep access for millions of middle-income and lower-income Americans, as well as really, they do a lot with small businesses. Company in the midst of a 3-part 5-year plan to innovate and tap more when it comes to small business and financial products and really their total overall platform experience. Here's a little clip from the conversation I had with him with H&R Block CEO Jeff Jones. We talked about, first of all, a lot of things, but also his time at Uber. Check it out.
You were briefly president of ride sharing over at Uber, and I'm just curious, you know, you've been in kind of more traditional industries, but certainly Uber, we talk about the Uberization of the world. Nobody can doubt, whether you like them or not, the impact that they have had on our world. How did it shape how you kind of think about what needs to be on your radar? And especially as you think about H&R Block, it's about tax, right? We have to pay for it. It's a little boring, forgive me. But nonetheless, you are thinking about, but it's a necessary part of our world, and you're building it out. So how does maybe your experience at Uber kind of add to what you're doing or how you are thinking about where this company needs to be 50 years from now?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question because I was only there 7 months, but there is no question that that company helps see possibility in transportation worldwide like no other. And I think that relentless focus on the customer, the power of data, constantly thinking about what's possible is really all the spirit of what we're up to at Block in our own transformation. Tax isn't something that most people look forward to. We do, obviously, but the average customer doesn't. And so the other thing that I think Uber did that we're absolutely doing is, Uber talked about democratizing transportation and making it available to people that otherwise didn't have the means. And when we think about serving Main Street America, whether it's consumer tax or small business owners or the financial products, that expertise, that combination of digital tools and capabilities, those are all things that I think I were inspired by at Uber and at Target and, other great places in my background.
So financial innovation, how do you think about something like crypto or blockchain or kind of how the world is changing? How do you think about it? What are the discussions you guys have at Block about it and how it might eventually impact the platform?
Yeah. I think innovation for customers happens on different horizons, no surprise. And I think the near-term horizons for us and our customers, crypto certainly plays a part in terms of how we help people with their tax planning based on transactions, the rise of retail investors in general, obviously, we think about from a tax perspective. But then in terms of our platform, we're looking at so many things right now from what's happening to build credit with debit products, what's happening with buy now, pay later, what's happening with instant payouts and payroll. All those are trends in addition to blockchain and crypto and others. But I'll still come back to, at the end of the day, our customers want us to help them maximize their value because the stakes are very high. And they might be interested in all of these innovations, but if we don't deliver value for them, really nothing else matters. So we have to pay attention to this ecosystem, short-term and long-term, and make sure that that customer is getting value from H&R Block.
No, it's a really good thought. And I do also think about, you speak about paying attention. Who do you pay attention to? Is it certain companies? You mentioned the buy now, pay later, which all of a sudden you think about, it's not a new concept, but it's back in a big way. What are the either companies or trends that you really focus on right now?
Yeah, well, those are definitely a few of the trends. I'd probably add to that contactless payment. I think about my own behavior during the pandemic and how quickly I started going to apps that had Apple Pay built in and how fast you're able to get your meal and transact. I think that's obviously an incredible advancement. And there's so many companies doing amazing work today. And I think being externally focused and paying attention, it just matters to innovation. I love what I see happening at Shopify, the fintech part of their business, but also the SaaS part of their business. A company called Dosh, helping consumers get more value for their dollar by having this ecosystem of rewards and loyalty, I think is incredible. Maybe a couple companies I love right now that aren't pure fintech companies, but I look in the restaurant industry at what Toast is doing and building this just incredible platform for small business owners and restaurateurs. Look at Chipotle. I think their app is incredible that combines payment and rounding up and loyalty and all in one place. So I just think it's an incredibly exciting time to be in this industry. And I think those are just a few examples.
All right, and that, of course, was the CEO of H&R Block, Jeff Jones, and a conversation I had with him for our Financial Innovation Summit. You can check out more. Just go to BloombergLive.com or also check out our podcast feed. All right, a few headlines we want to bring you in the after hours. PayPal in a pact with Amazon to let customers, U.S. customers, pay with Venmo. This is after the company also talked about its latest quarterly update, fourth quarter adjusted EPS of $1.12. The estimate out there is $1.28. 2028, so that forecast is a little light. Fourth quarter revenue, the top line, $6.85 billion to $6.95 billion. That too is light. The estimate of the street is $7.24 billion. So again, it looks like they're reining in their estimates there.
Okay, you're keeping an eye on PayPal. I'm keeping an eye on AMC. Shares bouncing around in the after hours after the company reported earnings that beat on both the top and the bottom line. Revenue coming in at $763.2 million, beating estimates of $708.3 million. Their third quarter adjusted EBITDA loss coming in at $5.4 million, translating to, for the third quarter, to 44 cents per share. Estimated loss was at 53 cents a share, so it beat on the top line and the bottom line. Shares were initially moving higher, but now down about 0.5% in after hours.
Yeah, a little bit lower here, and this is after, it is our favorite, not our favorite, but
well, it's a meme's favorite, right?
A meme's favorite. I mean, the stock's up more than 2,000% here, and it's about a $23 billion market cap.
Yeah, I talked to Michael Pachter at Wedbush Securities, downgraded the stock last week. He's got a sell rating on it with a price target of $7.50. But he said as long as the shorts are in there, the meme stock players are going to keep playing in it.
Yeah.
Because that's what's motivating them.
6 sells on the stock, 3 holds. And if we take a look at short interest on it, it's about 18%. Not as high as some other names that are out there, but nonetheless pretty significant. PayPal, by the way, we just mentioned about being in a pact with Amazon specifically. Stock is up about 5.3% in the after hours, and that's despite lowering its revenue and profit forecast as the volume on eBay specifically is fading. That's what we're seeing. PayPal lowering its full-year guidance for revenue and earnings after its former parent company, eBay, accelerated a shift away from the payments giant.
Yeah, that's been years in the making. Remember, these two companies used to be part of the same company. They were the same company.
That.
Yeah, and well, they were originally not, and they mashed up together.
Right?
Yeah, it's like what's old is new again, right?
Well, and it says volume tied to eBay's marketplace declined 45% in the third quarter, a bigger drop than in the prior period. PayPal saying that in a statement.
Is that because
weighed
people
on the
are
overall
outside doing things instead of shopping for things on eBay? Are they buying more experiences? Are they paying to go places, paying to go to restaurants?
I don't know. It says as eBay moves off, I don't know. Is it just, I don't know.
It could be.
I don't know what the answer is. Right? But they've got a new deal with Amazon, so you do wonder what that will mean going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Some momentum. And that probably explains why you're seeing shares of PayPal in the after hours. We're seeing that stock pop up about 4.3% as we speak. A lot of companies out with their latest result. TripAdvisor coming out with their latest update. That stock is down about almost 9% in the after hours.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about TripAdvisor. The company's co-founder and CEO announcing plans for departure in 2022.
Been there for more than 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
Stephen Koffer. I've interviewed him before. This is what he's done. This has been his company. He says that when we come to the close of 2021 in a strong position, travelers are returning as we exit the pandemic. Given our strong position, the talented team's driving our plans forward, and after 20 years at TripAdvisor, I believe now is the best time to announce my plans to step away from the company next year.
All right, so maybe a new era, certainly, it sounds like, for TripAdvisor. Just going to mention real rapidly, you can get more detail if you go to Bloomberg.com, but we're seeing shares of Virgin Galactic, ticker is SPCE. That stock's up about 1.2% in the after hours after its latest quarterly update. We mentioned Robinhood. That stock is seeing some selling, down about 3.3%. That after coming out and saying that a hack accessed email addresses for about 5 million users. So talking about a November 3rd data security incident. So some details on that.
All right, we're also watching the insurer Lemonade. The company's supposed to be reporting earnings any minute now. In the meantime, they did announce that they're going to buy Metro Mile in an all-stock transaction that implies fully diluted equity value at $500 million.
Stock's down 6.4% in the after hours. Lots to watch when we go into the Tuesday trade. This is Bloomberg.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
You are listening to Bloomberg Business Week, turning out to be a really, really busy Monday. We're going to, though, take a deep dive into the global auto industry. Lucky for us, we're going to have the President and Chief Executive Officer of Mercedes-Benz USA. He's going to join us in just a moment.
And Carol, you've been doing your homework. If people follow you on Twitter, they'll know that a couple weekends ago, you had a chance to drive a new Mercedes-Benz.
They were really lovely. They gave me a loaner, and I got to play around in one of their latest models.
You don't have it anymore?
I don't.
You gave it back?
I had to give it back.
Okay.
All right, we'll get to that in just a moment. First up, though, let's get back to your top business stories. A lot of news after the close here,
Indeed,
Charlie.
we love it. That's what we do here at Bloomberg. Going to begin with the automotive industry. Ford Motor Shares closing above $20 for the first time in 2 decades, with a push toward electric vehicles and successful navigation of the semiconductor supply shortage, helping to boost the automaker's stock to records. Earnings fast and furious after the close of trading. AMC Entertainment, which has soared more than 20-fold this year as a so-called meme stock, reported third-quarter results that beat analyst estimates as consumers begin to return to movie theaters. Shares after hours, they are trading lower right now, down by just about 0.4%. PayPal after earnings up by 3%. PayPal did lower its full-year guidance for revenue and earnings after its former parent company, eBay, accelerated a shift away from the payment giant. Robinhood has announced a November 3rd data security incident, says the hack accessed email addresses of about 5 million people. Stocks pushed higher today. Records across the board for the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. S&P notched its longest winning streak since 2017. As for the market backdrop, Dan Gentner is the CEO of RNC Genter Capital Management.
For me, I would hope that it would slow down. Let's consolidate. Let's the earnings continue to come in and support it. Maybe a little bit of PE pullback, and then see more liquidity come into the market. It tends to slow down this time of year in many cases. We see more liquidity come into the market, in the beginning of the year, because I think it's going to have to go there. I mean, as I mentioned, I've been doing this for 4 decades, and there's just not a lot of options for investors right now.
And Genter was interviewed right here on Bloomberg Business Week. Smile Direct shares down 19%. It forecast revenue for the fourth quarter. That guidance did miss the average analyst estimate. 10-year yield 1.49%. Gold up 0.4%, 18.24 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.2%. And that's Bloomberg Business Flash.
It is indeed. All right, Charlie, thank you so much for that update. Well, our next guest has really a global perspective on the auto industry, having worked for Mercedes-Benz for a long time, since 1992. I think Tim and I were just checking. And he worked in his native Greece, also in Korea and Canada. He became president and CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA earlier this year. Delighted to have joining us Dimitris Zalakis. He joins us on the phone in Atlanta, which is where Mercedes-Benz USA has its headquarters. Dimitris, so nice to have you here on Bloomberg Radio. How are you?
Hello, pleasure is mine.
Well, it's good to have you here. And before we get into specific company strategy, we would love to just hear your take on the U.S. and North American luxury auto market. How would you describe it, and where do you see it going right now?
I would say it's we're in a phase of growth. Despite COVID and despite the challenges we're facing, obviously in the supply side, the luxury car markets in North America has a high demand. And we see in the market trend of growing compared to the previous year.
How is the supply crunch hitting you right now? Like if somebody were to order a car, and I'm certain it depends on the model, is there a wait as a result because of the supply chain crunch that we're seeing?
Yes, there is a way. Obviously, as you know, the stocks are quite low in the market at the moment, but we're doing the best we can to manage the supply and give priority to our customers. We went through a tough Q3, but situation in Q4 is improving, and we see the situation stabilizing. What helps a lot in accommodating demand is the flexibility we have in our factories in accommodating, let's say, the shortages in the best way. So I would say It has been challenging, but we did the best we could do out of it to supply vehicles to our customers.
So does it sound like, Demetrius, that when we get into 2022, we still might have some supply chain constraints, but as you said, stabilizing, so not getting necessarily any worse?
This is the current situation. Yes, Q4 is developing better than Q3, and we see certain light out of the tunnel. Nevertheless, 2022 will continue posing challenges for all of us in the auto industry.
What about for workers? That's the other kind of flip side of this, is that companies are competing for workers, having to pay up. How are you guys on the labor front, certainly for the markets that you oversee?
I would say we are we have a good situation, a stable situation there. We manage that flexibly with our workforce. Our dealers also on their side are accommodating the demand. Also through the COVID phase, we could keep our businesses up and running. So all in all, I would say it's manageable. It's tough, but it's manageable.
We've heard a lot from executives around the country who've had to raise prices as a result to attract and retain talent, or to attract and retain talent. How have you had to do that?
I would say this is twofold. On one hand is adapting to the current situation conditions. So as you know, we have also a hybrid working model in the company, and probably in one or the other situation we had to pay what the market is asking. But all in all, is following trends, is adjusting, and it's manageable within our budgets.
Hey, Demetrius, how is any of this impacting the rollout of you guys? You are moving aggressively into EVs. You've launched your EQS brand already in Europe. It's coming, from what I understand, early 2022 in the United States. How does that rollout look?
All in all, I think we're moving faster into an electric vehicle future, and Mercedes-Benz is part of this game. You said quite right. We have just launched our first electric vehicle in the US, which is the EQS. Let's say the media reports on this product, the dealer comments after testing the products are extremely positive. So we're looking to a very positive future for the EV vehicles of Mercedes-Benz.
And do you feel like, we just got about 30 seconds, we're going to take a break and come back, but in 30 seconds, do you feel like you'll be able to meet the demand of the new EQS brand, of people who want them, who place orders here in North America? You'll be able to meet that demand in 2022?
We have quite a good volume, but the issue here is not if we can meet the demand. I think the demand is higher than what we can, all in all, produce and deliver. You know, EQS is not a product only for the US market. Right. It's a product for many markets around the world. The demand is high. It's an extraordinarily good product. We're happy for that. And unfortunately, there's going to be some waiting line for this product.
Sit tight for a second, Demetrius. We're going to come back because I want to talk a little bit more about the car I got to drive, and then also talk a little bit more about Mercedes-Benz and their vision for an EV future. We're going to come back with Demetrius Zalakis. He is the president and CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA.
Now check the latest world and national news. Nancy Lyons is standing by. Hey, Nance.
Hey, Tim, the Justice Department says it has charged a Russian and a Ukrainian for allegedly deploying ransomware infecting companies and organizations all around the globe. Attorney General Merrick Garland, in making the announcement today, said they're determined to catch bad actors.
The United States, together with our allies, will do everything in our power to identify the perpetrators of ransomware attacks, to bring them to justice, and to recover the funds they have stolen from the American people.
Garland says the Russian remains at large. He allegedly extorted $13 million from his victims. Well, Robinhood says a security breach on November 3rd resulted in an unauthorized party obtaining the email addresses for around 5 million customers, while the full names for a different group of approximately 2 million customers were accessed. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is touting the infrastructure bill that passed the House Friday night and will soon be signed by President Biden. He told a White House briefing today every community in the U.S. will benefit. He said the measure will also create many good new jobs across the country. Former President Barack Obama is pleading with the nations attending the COP26 conference that they follow through on their promises regarding the planet.
We are nowhere near where we need to be yet. For starters, despite the progress that Paris represented, most countries have failed to meet the action plans that they set 6 years ago.
Obama's comments came as conference leaders acknowledged today many key sticking points still exist after a week of talks. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Nancy Lyons.
All right, Nance, thank you so much. So, 'tis the season. I was in a couple of retail outlets over the weekend, and there were a lot of
some shopping.
Little bit. A lot of holiday stuff getting out and about there. Everybody getting off. It's funny, it's not even Thanksgiving, and yet all of the holiday stuff is out there for Christmas. Meantime, what's going on at the New York Times?
Well, the gadget
There is a
reviewers
connection here.
Yeah, there is absolutely a connection. I actually would have gone to the same place, Carol. The gadget reviewers there are planning a Black Friday strike. So for people who don't know, a few years ago, the New York Times bought the Wirecutter. It was an independent website. The Wirecutter is a gadget review service. It's sort of like a Consumer Reports. And the way that it makes money is through affiliated marketing. So when somebody buys something that is suggested on the Wirecutter, using one of the links there, the Wirecutter gets a very small portion of that purchase, whether it's from Amazon or Walmart or other online retailers.
Are they editorially independent?
They are editorially independent from the New York Times, but it really
So when they write a review, it's their real thinking about something.
Exactly, yeah. Okay. And so even if they do get a referral fee,
yeah,
it's still editorially independent.
So over 90%.
They're not paid for actually putting certain products.
Because that's I wasn't sure about. So over 90% of Wirecutter union members have voted to authorize a work stoppage lasting 1 or more days in late November, according to the News Guild, which represents around 1,300 other editorial and business workers at the New York Times. 2 years ago, the union secured recognition at Wirecutter as well. Black Friday, November 26th this year. That's the day after the Thanksgiving holiday, when retailers count on a huge bump in holiday shopping. It's usually when they go from being in the red to the black. Why it's called Black Friday.
Yeah, this is a story, by the way, by our own Josh Idelson. Check it out on the Bloomberg Terminal. Members, he writes, plan to protest what they say is the company's refusal to agree to an initial collective bargaining agreement with significant guaranteed wage increases. They say the company is offering across-the-board raises of only 0.5 percentage point this year, with additional pay subject to management's discretion about who deserves it.
Times spokesperson did not immediately comment in response to an inquiry. Wirecutter generates revenue for the company via subscriptions, digital ads, and commissions on purchases via those affiliate links. So it's a revenue source.
Yeah, it's a growing revenue source for the Times.
And I would imagine, especially at that time. This is Bloomberg.
headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Records on Wall Street, lots of after-the-bell earnings. AMC Entertainment, which has soared more than 20-fold this year as a so-called meme stock, reported third-quarter results that beat analyst estimates as consumers began to return to movie theaters. Shares after hours up now by just about 7.3%. PayPal shares surging now by 2.6% in extended trading on an announced deal with Amazon.com, even after the payments giant trimmed its full-year forecast for revenue growth. Robinhood Market says personal information of millions of customers was compromised in a data breach last week and that the culprit demanded a payment. Shares down by 2%. Douglas Elliman Real Estate, one of the New York region's largest traditional residential brokerages, is seeking to become a publicly traded company. If the deal goes through, it will trade on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker DOUG, D-O-U-G. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all at records today, with the S&P 500 index advancing 4, up 8 in a row now, up another 0.1%. The Dow up 104, up 0.3. NASDAQ higher by 10, up by 0.1%. Russell 2000 also at a record, up 0.2. 10-year yield 1.48%. Gold up 0.4, $18.24 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 1.1%, $82.19 a barrel. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. I want to get back to our guest. Still with us is President and CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA, Dimitris Zalakis, still with us on the phone in Atlanta, where Mercedes-Benz USA has its headquarters. So, Dimitris, tell us a little bit more about the vision of Mercedes-Benz and their thoughts about electric vehicles and where it's all going.
Yeah, we are. Our vision is very clear. We want to become the most desirable electric luxury brand. And this, we start our era by introducing the EQS, an amazing vehicle with top technologies, innovations, and a splendid design. And there is much more to come. So we're accelerating our product range towards a carbon neutral, let's say, mobility. And this is by introducing within next year, early next year, the EQB, which is going to be our entry SUV model, but we continue with the EQE sedan, the EQS SUV, and the EQE SUV, which are two products which, by the way, will be produced in our factory in Alabama. So in the next basically 12 to 15 months, we plan to have a full range of 5 full electric vehicles in the U.S. market.
What is the price range on these? Because if somebody's in the market for an electric vehicle, they're going to consider from other companies. And, you know, Tesla, regardless of where it ends up, right, advertises cars in the 30,000s.
I would say at the moment, our top of the range, what we call the electric Mercedes, the S-Class of electric, which is the EQS, starts at $103,000. And obviously, with the EQB, which is an equivalent to today GLB, will be in a much lower range, probably around the $60,000. So it's a lot to come in between.
Well, speaking of range, so how far can these cars go? Because I still think there's still, Dimitris, so much range anxiety out there because we don't have the infrastructure necessarily in place for electric vehicles and for charging. So talk to us a little bit about the range on the vehicles as part of this this brand, and also how quickly the charge happens.
Yeah, the EQS, which we're just launching, has been classified by EPA having a range of 350 miles, which is a very respectable, I would say, very competitive range for such a vehicle. And most important is that we're collaborating with Electrify America and Electrify and charge points, and we're offering 120,000 charging points throughout the country. So it's the largest network, let's say, for AC and DC charging. And on top of that, for the first 2 years of our EQS, let's say, ownership, we're offering a 2 years free charging. Coming to the charging time, within 30 minutes on a DC charger, on a fast charger, you can basically charge 80% of the vehicle's capacity. So that would give you easily a 300 miles range in 30 minutes.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick. Do you anticipate a time, Dimitris, when we get to a point in the United States where the charging network is as ubiquitous as a gas station available on every corner?
I would not give a date for that, but I would say the speed of adoption of electromobility is quite impressive in the U.S. That coupled with the, let's say, the infrastructure infrastructure subsidies which are planned, we believe will accelerate the rhythm of development of charging stations. Don't forget also technology helps in this direction, since you can basically on the screen of your vehicle identify which is the closest charging station, or plan, let's say, your driving route according to available charging stations. So a combination of charging stations and smart technology would support our customers overcoming the hesitation of, let's say, buying or driving an electric vehicle for long distances.
Hey, Dimitris, how do you think about, in full transparency, your team was great. They provided me a loaner leading up to this interview. It was an E450 Cabriolet. And, you know, it's interesting how the inside of the car, if you ever were questioning how much technology is in a vehicle today, you know, all you have to do is look inside the car. It's all screens and bigger screens that are out there. How do you guys think about the inside of the cars increasingly, especially as we move more rapidly towards an EV world?
I mean, you have driven the E450. My team should offer to you the EQS. Then you see what.
That's next.
Hey, what about me?
The hybrid screen, we call it a giant screen, is basically a 56-inch screen from covering the full cockpit from right to left. And I think on your question is basically the feeling that the habitat, let's say, the interior of the vehicle is basically your luxury, relaxed environment, which offer you all the technology bits, but at the same time, it offers you a very comfortable driving environment. So technology which supports your relaxed driving.
Yeah, I was looking at one car, I think that I was looking on the web at, as you said, 56-inch dashboard, and it's kind of 3 individual screens, right? There's like infotainment, navigation, and there's actually a screen for your passenger as well.
Yeah, I mean, the passenger can do his emails or can follow on his whatever film. That can be independently of the other 2 screens. And that's, I think, one of the innovations that this product, the EQS, is bringing in the market.
Well, I hope next year, as we get into the new year, that you can come back and tell us how the rollout's going, and love to hear more about the new models. Certainly when it comes to the EQS brand as it rolls out here in the United States, we can check back with you. Dimitris, thank you so much. Dimitris Zalakis, he is the president and CEO of Mercedes-Benz USA, joining us on the phone in Atlanta.
Yeah, when he comes back, let's also chat about driverless car technology.
I thought you were saying let's just go for a ride.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get to Joe Matthew, host of Sound On, coming up. So much going on. Joe, what's on tap tonight?
Well, we're going to start at least with approval ratings, or maybe we should start calling them just disapproval ratings, a new low for Joe Biden. In the new Suffolk University poll, we're going to be joined by the man behind the numbers, the pollster David Paleologos, to find out what's going on here and what it could mean for the midterms. Did you guys hear 1 year from today?
I know.
Oh, wow. But who's counting, Joe?
Please, I live in New Jersey, and just seeing that race, we still are waiting for the Republican to concede.
Yes. Still have a facial tick from it as well. Maybe I'll speak for myself.
Good luck. Hang in there. All right, Joe Matthew, host of Sound On, coming your way. All the news out of the nation's capital, everything that's going on politically. Whew. A lot of stuff after the close.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I need a nap already. We're going to be watching a lot of those names that we talked about after the close into that Tuesday trade. For Tim Stanovic, I'm Carol Masser. This is Bloomberg.